Let's begin.
Hey there, scary story fanatics! Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. One bad experience at camp and some never want to go back. But you guys, you all clamor for more. So, if you're ready for another bloodbath, prepare to towel off after tonight's little tale, Locust Lake, the Red Coat.
You're probably gonna like this, Corey,
Randy said, as he looked at the group of teenagers in front of him. Randy, Ted, and Corey's older brother, Derek, were sent out to the mine to check it out, to assess it, and get it ready for operation. The long, dormant mine on the property that Corey and Derek's father had just purchased. But Randy was more upset about the current problem at hand. There were a group of 4 teenagers looking for a place to have a little party, and they were begging him to let them in. It was pretty much safe, and there was no way that you could get lost in that little mine, not without clearing some rubble first. But that wasn't the problem on Randy's mind. Randy was a very superstitious miner, afraid of Tommyknockers and the like, spirits that hide in the mines to ward off miners, or warn them of impending collapse. But that wasn't the only myth that he believed in. He also believed in all the other crap, such as if you see a red-headed woman before going to work in the mine, it's bad luck. Also, if a woman goes into the mine, then that too is bad luck. And here, standing before Randy, was Corey, his friend Marshall, and 2 girls, one of them a redhead. Not to mention the entire area had the reputation of being cursed. The lake down the road, and the forest that connected the property where they stood to it, all of it, it all had a dark reputation, and Randy wasn't one to take things like that lightly.
Come on, let us in, man. I won't tell Dad.
Corey spoke, the smell of alcohol on the breath of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed teen.
can't do it. Your pa would skin me alive if he found out. So, no, I can't let you in,
Randy said.
Alright, well,
Corey began.
I could just tell my daddy let us in anyways and get you fired. Doesn't bother me none.
He finished, looking away from Randy.
You really are a piece of work, ain't you? Get your sorry asses in there. Don't go mess around with shit. Don't want to cause a cave-in. Don't go lighting up any cigarettes or nothing like that. None of that reefer either. It's a coal mine. Don't want to be starting no fires like down in Centralia, do you? Dumbasses set the whole mine ablaze and it'll burn for hundreds of years, they say.
Randy spoke.
Yeah, we got it, old man. No fires, no messing around. Got it. Can we go now?
Corey said, getting antsy to get into the mine to party. Randy simply sighed and threw a thumb over his shoulder.
Go on in,
he said, before turning to walk back to the old house where everyone was staying.
Damn kids are gonna get themselves killed, and I'm gonna be responsible. God damn it. I'm gonna get fired.
The old man with a scraggly white beard mumbled to himself. The 4 teenagers entered through the archway of the wooden beams into the mine. A large portion of it was already wired and set up with lights that Derek had brought in with the help of the others. It was a small mine that had started up right at the discovery of coal in Pennsylvania, but it had only run for a handful or so years before it was shut down when the owners and most of the workers went off to fight and die in the Revolutionary War, leaving the mine to sit in darkness for over a century. Corey and the rest of the crew traveled deeper and deeper into the tunnel system of the mine. Some of the offshoots had been sealed up due to collapse, but other than that, the majority of the mine was relatively safe. As long as you kept your hard hat on, that is. "Hey, what do you guys think about this spot?" Corey's friend Marshall asked.
Looks good to me, man.
Corey replied, before pulling a half-empty bottle of Jack Daniels out of his jacket where he had it hidden, twisting it open and taking a swig.
Let me have some.
An obviously drunk, blonde-haired girl slurred out before she snatched the bottle away from Corey and took a large gulp, before then handing it to Marshall, slightly stumbling in the process. "Careful, babe," Marshall said, taking the booze from his girlfriend and passing it back to Corey, whom still had a look of "what the fuck" all over his face.
Come on, Come on, I wanna look over here. I wanna explore.
The girl said drunkenly to Marshall before stumbling drunkenly down one of the tunnels. "Kara, wait, hold up," Marshall said before following after her.
So, what do you think of the place, Val?
Corey said to the red-headed girl with him.
It's pretty cool, I guess.
The girl replied, obviously not very impressed with being in a cold, dark hole in the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome,
Corey said, not even a bit aware that she didn't really want to be there.
It's been closed up since the Revolutionary War, you know. It's probably got all kinds of secrets hidden away.
He continued.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Val said unenthusiastically.
So, what kind of stuff do you suppose could be down here?
Corey asked.
I don't know. Coal?
Val joked.
Oh, ha, very
Corey yelled as a pile of rocks that he had been leaning on gave way with a small rumble to reveal a long, hidden passageway beyond. Corey coughed and gagged, climbing up off the floor as the dust settled around him.
What? What the fuck was that?
Corey said, still coughing a bit.
Didn't that old guy warn you not to touch anything? Are you trying to get us killed?
Val grumbled.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Corey began.
I'm fine, by the way,
he added.
Might as well have a look,
Val said before ducking into the newly opened passageway.
What the fuck?
Corey whispered to himself before following shortly thereafter. The newly opened tunnel led into a larger area with a higher ceiling than most of the rest of the mine, but this area looked older. It didn't look like it was dug out, but rather like it was a small portion of a natural cave system that the mine had tapped into. There were stalactites that hung from the ceiling, and water that ran down the walls where it gathered in a large pool at one side of the chamber. The two of them scanned the area in awe. It was beautiful, dimly lit by a scattering of rays of sunlight that poked through various sized holes about the high ceiling of the large room. Then, a scream rang out and echoed through the mines. Corey's eyes shot towards the source of the scream, where he found Val frozen in place, terrified out of her mind. He followed her gaze back to where they had entered, and there lay a nearly full skeleton. He was curled up in the fetal position, and his clothing had been ripped and torn. It was obvious from his garb, of a red coat and white pants, that he was a British soldier that had probably fallen down into the cave but couldn't get out. Because not only was the entrance to the cave sealed off from the mine, but also because the actual entrance to the mine had also been sealed off due to a cave-in that happened who knows when.
Oh damn, he must have fell through during the Revolutionary War and got stuck down here,
Corey said as he approached the skeleton, long picked clean by cave creatures and time.
Hey,
Corey said, before reaching down beside the dead redcoat and pulling something up. It was an old book that had begun to fall apart, but Corey handled it with care and began to look through it.
It's a journal,
he said.
Look in the back. Find out what happened to him.
Val suggested. Corey did just that, looking for the source of how he got down here, and began to read.
1779. Wait, wasn't the country founded in 1776?
Corey asked.
Yeah, but the Revolutionary War continued until 1783.
Val replied.
The more you know.
Corey continued.
What's that book say?
Val asked.
1779. My fellow soldiers and I have fallen through into a cave. We believe all to be lost. However, fortunately for us, we found that the cave opened up into a coal mine. Though unfortunately for us, the mine's entrance has been completely sealed by a large boulder sometime before our arrival. There was no chance in us being able to move them, so we would be trapped down here for who knows how long. I pray to the Lord that someone will come and find us soon.
Us? Where's the rest of them?
Val asked, looking around at the completely empty cave.
Hold on, there's more.
Corey said, before continuing on in the journal.
We've been in here for nearly a month now. We've run out of supplies. We have remained nourished by drinking the water that is pulled up in the cave and have resorted to eating insects and other such creatures that we have found scurrying about the darker reaches of the cave system. At times, we've even had to resort to boiling the leather of our belts and boots. Even the supply of boots runs thin now, however, and I fear that our time runs thin as well. God, please help us.
Corey read.
They starved to death? They all starved to death?
Val said sorrowfully.
I'm not so sure.
Corey said, a concerned expression coming across his face.
We have run out of all sources of food. Some men have gone off into the cave in search of sustenance, but it has been some time since, and they have not yet returned. I fear that they have somehow met their demise within the further reaches of the cave. 2 of the younger men are very weak, and the third has passed on. He could struggle no longer. Some of the other men have begun discussion what to do with the dead, and my worst fears were made real when they began to prepare and cook the dead. At first I tried to resist, but I was so hungry. So hungry. God, please forgive us for what we have done.
Corey read from the journal.
Oh my God. They ate each other.
Val said, nearly gagging in disgust.
I fear that we are going mad with hunger. Some of us have grown angry and others timid and scared. All of us, however, have begun to hear things. Knocking and whispering in the walls, and the terrors do not stop there. Some of us have also claimed to see shadows, or even in one case, a man claimed that a spirit spoke to him. I believed us to be mad from hunger. Then she appeared. She came to us. A woman arose from the muddy waters pooled within the cave. A native woman dressed in mud-covered furs. She spoke to us, promising salvation, promising life. She had a darkness about her, and if God cannot forgive us for consuming our fellow man in a time of desperation, then he surely could not forgive us for bargaining with an unclean spirit. Yet I fear that not all of us share that same will within us. We may all share the same God here, but we may not all share the power of will to do his work, and I fear that if this woman returns, one of us may take her up on her offer, whatever it may be. God, please forgive us for our sins.
Corey finished, closing the book gently and looking over at Val.
What the hell?
Val said, even more terrified now than ever. The near silence of the cave was then disturbed by knocking sounds from deeper within, knocking that drew closer and closer before the two of them realized that it wasn't knocking at all. More like a cracking or crunching sound. The two of them were suddenly frozen in terror as they witnessed the source of the sound emerge from the tunnel entrance beside them. A long, slender arm reached out from the darkness at the top of the tunnel and curled upward, bending with the same crunching sound as its joints cracked when it moved. The hand had 5 long, thin fingers that clung firmly to the rock, like a spider to its web. The first hand was followed by a second, and then the rest of the creature's body emerged from the tunnel to crawl upward onto the cave wall. It was a man, or at least it kind of looked like a man, but the thing's arms and legs were far too long for any man, and its skin was a pale, grayish color. It had patches of scraggly, white hair scattered about its thin, malnourished body, but was mostly hairless aside from that. His eyes were completely missing, torn out years ago, leaving only hollow sockets where they once were. He was not always this way. It was made evident by the torn, muddy pants and ragged red coat that this thing was all that remained of the British soldiers that had fallen into the cave all those years ago. Suddenly, the beast's head shot up and its cold, empty eye sockets connected with the eyes of Corey, before the man leapt from the wall, pouncing upon Corey and knocking him hard to the floor. The boy let out a blood-curdling scream as the monster opened its mouth wide, its jaw completely unhinging like a snake, before biting down onto Corey's shoulder, ripping a chunk of flesh out and swallowing it whole, before opening wide once again and completely enveloping Corey's screaming head, muffling his screams before finally putting an end to them when the creature bit down, decapitating the boy. Val's fight-or-flight response kicked in after being frozen for a moment in time, and she opted for the latter, running away back into the mine, trying desperately for an escape. The beast continued feasting upon the boy, gnawing on his bones, leaving very little flesh for the critters that scurried about in the cave. The thing climbed to its feet, its back haunched over a bit, and its malnourished body was now a bit bloated with the consumed flesh inside. The creature in the red coat then began its hunt. Elsewhere in the mine, Kara and Marshall had found themselves a nice quiet alcove to curl up in, but they had other ideas. Kara pushed her boyfriend back against the wall of the mine and kissed him deeply on the lips before moving to kiss down his neck a bit, her hand trailing down his body to grab his crotch. Then she suddenly stopped.
I'll be right back. I gotta use the ladies' room,
she said drunkenly, before stumbling away, leaving Marshall blindsided. Well, shit, Marshall said, reaching into his pocket to grab a cigarette. He put it in his mouth and was about to light it, before he remembered what the old man outside had said. Didn't want to go up in flames like Centralia. So, Marshall decided against it and began to return the cigarette to its pack when he suddenly felt an extreme pain within his groin, followed by a crunching sound as an old pickaxe was driven deeply through his loins and into the stone wall behind him. He dropped the cigarettes to the ground and began to scream in pain before the monster's hand reached down to grab his throat, thrusting his head violently against the wall.
What the hell's with all the noise? Can't a girl pee in peace?
Kara said, stumbling back into the alcove. She didn't even have time to see her deceased boyfriend before her face was driven violently upon the other end of the double-sided pickaxe within him, the metal spike being forced through her face and out through the back of her skull with a crunch. The creature then left them there, like meat hung up on hooks to be devoured later. Meanwhile, Val had made her way out of the mine, where she ran full-on into Randy's chest, nearly knocking him over.
What the hell was that about?
Randy asked, confused at the sudden bump in the chest and as to why the young lady was in such a hurry.
It fucking killed him! Corey's dead!
Val said, her eyes welling up with tears.
What in the world are you going on about?
Randy asked her.
This thing, this man, I don't know. It ate him. It just bit his head off like a damn animal cracker. He's dead. He's fucking dead,
Val said, still extremely shaken up.
Alright, young lady. You follow me now, you hear? I'm gonna get you someplace safe. We're gonna take care of this, alright?
Randy told her, leading her up to the nearby house where the owner's son and Corey's brother, Derek, were relaxing with Ted, the other remaining co-worker.
Derek, we got a problem,
Randy said, entering the room where Derek and Ted were having a drink and talking about what was to be done in the mine the next day.
What do you mean? And who's this?
Derek asked.
Corey and some of his friends went into the mine, and this young lady came out yelling something attacked Corey and...
But before Randy could finish his answer, he was cut off by another question from Derek.
What? Something attacked my brother? Where?
Derek asked.
I don't know. Some of the wall caved in, and it opened up into a cave or something.
Val replied, still scared out of her mind.
Shit. Alright. Come on, Ted. I might need your help.
Derek said before grabbing his coat and rushing out the door.
Sure thing,
Ted replied, following quickly thereafter. The two of them ran down the hill and into the mine, where it wasn't very long after that they found the corpses of Marshall and Kara pinned to the tunnel wall.
Oh shit,
Ted said, before turning away and vomiting onto the ground.
Corey!
Derek yelled.
Corey! Where are you, man?
He yelled again for his brother, but got no reply. The distraught brother then disappeared into the tunnel, leaving Ted behind to recover from his nausea. Ted had never seen anything so disturbing in his life, and it sickened him to his core. He trembled and turned away from the gore, leaving the area to rejoin his friend, but when Ted entered the tunnel Derek had just entered moments earlier, he was blocked by the silhouette of a tall, slender beast. The red coat stepped forth from the darkness, revealing the full terror of its appearance, and this immediately sent Ted running. He ran as fast as his legs would carry him. He could hear the creature's bones creaking and cracking behind him in pursuit. He knew that if he ran for the exit, he would have no chance. But the medical room had a steel door that they had just installed, and if he could just get up those steps and lock that door behind him, it would most likely be able to hold the monster at bay until help was able to arrive for him. However, fate had other plans for Ted. The poor man tripped over a rock like in a cheesy horror movie and fell hard to the ground, just mere feet before the metal stairs that led to that heavy door that would be his salvation. The man attempted to climb to his feet, but was pushed back to the dirt by a large, blistered foot upon his back. Ted screamed in terror as the redcoat gripped a fistful of his hair and began dragging him closer to the stairs. His screams became muffled as his mouth was forced over the edge of one of the steps, followed by that same muddy, blistered foot being driven into the back of his skull with a sickening crunch and clang sound of bone against steel. His body began to convulse beneath the beast's foot due to the nerves still signaling within the body, but Ted was surely no more. The creature then turned, leaving his kill behind in order to seek out another to add to the lot, the remaining brother, Derek. Derek had found the opening to the unexplored cave that his brother had stumbled into, and in doing so, had also discovered his brother's corpse, or what was left of it. The only way that he could tell that it was his brother was because he was still wearing the same clothes the last time he had seen him, but now those clothes were bloody and torn and wrapped around an unrecognizable mass of flesh and bones that barely even resembled a human anymore. Derek collapsed onto the ground in tears, but he had little time to grieve before a sound snapped him away. The crackling sound of snapping bones could be heard fast approaching, and Derek didn't know what was coming, but he didn't care. He wanted revenge for his brother, and he intended to get it. So, he quickly hid and waited. The redcoat emerged from the tunnel, clawing along the ground with its limbs disjointed like a spider on all fours. His arms and legs twisting unnaturally as he moved, and without even thinking about it, Derek reacted. He grabbed a nearby shovel and ran full speed at the beast, striking it in the side and then again in the head with the metal shovel. The beast screeched in anger and reared up, standing on its hind legs, before Derek took a third swing at him, but instead of connecting, the beast grabbed a hold of the shovel's head, its fingers wrapping around it with such force that the shovel curled in upon itself between the creature's long fingers and palm. The thing then ripped the handle out of the man's grasp before tossing him across the cave chamber like a rag doll. Derek landed near to the mine opening, but he was hurting from the landing and in no shape to have a chance at getting away. But he tried anyway, crawling toward the way out of the mine, desperately trying to stand at every chance he could, and he made it a surprising distance before the creature stalked up to him. Derek rolled over onto his back, looking up at the monster. The thing snarled at him and reached to the side, gripping the handle of the half-filled wheelbarrow and pulling it closer, before lifting the thing clear over its head, causing it to scrape a bit against the mine's ceiling, before the beast drove the wheelbarrow down onto Derek, crushing him beneath it and spilling its contents of rock and debris out onto the dirt and blood. Meanwhile, back at the house, Randy and Val sat in silence. Randy spoke, breaking the silence.
Where are you from?
He asked her.
Scranton.
Val replied coyly.
Oh, big coal town. I'm from Rat, Wyoming. Another big coal town.
Randy added.
If I never see another coal mine, it will be too soon.
The girl spoke bluntly and coldly.
Fair enough. I don't blame you.
Randy replied.
Wait.
Val said.
Huh?
Randy questioned.
Shh. Do you hear that?
She asked.
Hear what?
Randy asked.
Shh. Listen.
She commanded once more. Outside, some movement could be heard softly, like large twigs breaking underfoot, as if someone were trying to approach the house through the forest. But it wasn't coming from the forest. The sound could be heard coming from the slightly cracked front door. In their hurry to find Corey, Derek and Ted must not have closed it all the way behind them. It was in that moment that Val realized what the sound was. It was the disjointed cracking of the redcoats' movements quickly approaching.
Shit!
Val yelled, quickly jumping to her feet to run to the front door, pushing it closed and locking every lock it had behind her before running back to Randy's side.
It's here!
She whispered.
What?
Randy whispered back. The two of them jumped in fright when something began pounding against the door, then slamming against it, smashing the glass windows out at the top of the door, allowing the duo to hear the creature screeching and clawing outside, trying to push its way through the thick wooden door. But that door didn't hold for more than a few strong slams before the lock ripped through the wall and the door swung violently open, its handle lodging into the wall behind it. Val screamed before running to the nearest exit, which was unfortunately up the stairs to the second floor. Old Randy followed shortly thereafter. The two of them moved quickly up the stairs, the old man moving faster than he had moved in years. They opened the door to the second floor hallway, before locking it behind them and moving down toward a set of 4 doors, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. And in that moment, they devised a plan to distract the monster in hopes of getting away. Mere moments later, the beast crashed through the weak door like it was nothing and entered into an empty hallway. The area was silent completely, aside from the sound of running water. The creature stalked down the hallway, digging its clawed fingers into the walls and ceiling as it curled up and around the structure of the wall, until finally it was outside the bathroom door. Water could be heard flowing inside, and the beast knew that his prey was held within. He broke down the door and entered the room where the shower was on, water splashing in the tub. Val and Randy then slowly crept out of the bedroom door on the opposite side of the hallway as the creature reached out to draw back the shower curtain. Suddenly, Randy's foot fell down onto a piece of wood that had been broken off from the bathroom door, letting out a loud snap.
Shit.
Randy whispered. The redcoat spun around with a snarl and pounced on Randy, clawing at him before lifting him up into the air and walking him into the bathroom, where his head was swiftly pinned upon the running shower head, blood and water spilling out of every orifice as his body hung from the spout. The monster quickly turned his attention back to Val, whom had made it halfway down the stairs by this point, but unluckily for her, her ankle rolled and she fell down the remaining stairs, hitting hard at the bottom and nearly breaking her leg. The front door was so close, but she had no chance of getting away. She could only crawl now. So, she did the only thing she could. She crawled around the corner at the base of the stairs and found the nearby basement door, where she attempted to put that between her and the beast to buy her some time. She knew that a locked door wouldn't stop it, but she just wanted to slow it down for as long as she could, even though she knew she didn't stand much of a chance at all. Val crawled down the wooden basement stairs and found herself on a dirt floor at the bottom. The basement's walls consisted of stones, all interlocked and laid together. It looked kind of like an odd dungeon, all aside from a steel door with a large bolt lock on it, which was newer and looked like something out of a modern dungeon.
Great,
She thought to herself. A fitting place to meet her end. She quickly ran to the steel door and flung it open. Inside was a narrow shaft with a ladder in it, a ladder that led down and down, deeper into the darkness. Was the house connected to the mine the whole time? Val didn't have much time to process the situation. The redcoat approached not long after, creaking and cracking its way down the wooden stairs where it found a mostly empty room. Some cardboard boxes and stored items, but other than that, an empty room. The thing noticed the open steel door and slowly approached the opening to peer into the darkness of the hole. Val charged the beast, pushing it roughly in the back and sending it toppling over head first into the pit beneath, the thing screeching the whole way down. Val smiled in celebration. She had won. She had beaten it. The girl reached up and was about to close the door and lock the monster in the mine once again. But before she could do so, two large hands grabbed her from behind and tossed her down the hole with it. She screamed the whole way down until she was silenced with a thud at the bottom. The hands that ended her then slammed the thick metal door shut and slid the heavy bolt lock back into place before their owner slowly turned away from the door. Damn it, son. Why'd you have to go down there? Your brother and the others were under strict orders to stay away from that part of the mine. But you had to go down there and... The man sighed. This is going to set us back a while, and the Order isn't going to be too happy about it, he said to himself, before walking slowly back up the basement steps.
So, if there's one thing to take away from tonight's little story, it's that no two entities are ever truly separated, and the forests that connect Locust Lake and your own are one and the same. So, if you're planning a trek into the forested depths, don't trek too far. There's more horror galore to find right here next weekend. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.